Hello and good day to you. You're once again welcome to MES Constructions, where we discuss all things engineering, architecture, and 3D modeling. Today, in Blender, we will be learning how to quickly model a circular castle brick wall. Open a new Blender scene and delete the default cube, as I have mine deleted already. Press Shift A and add a plane. The plane comes with a default dimension of 2 square meters. However, we want to model a brick, and 2 meter isn't realistic for that. Hence, you may go to Properties panel as shown to adjust the dimension to a preferred unit of measurement in order to rescale the plane. I prefer to use millimeters in my modeling. Go to the top panel as shown and enable edge length, as we need it to rescale the dimension of the plane. So, I will be rescaling this plane from a square of 2000 mm by 2000 mm into a plane of 150 mm by 300 mm, and then extrude the plane along the z-axis by 150 mm to model a brick of 300 by 150 by 150 mm. In order to extrude the face, we need to toggle to our face select mode, and as already mentioned, we extrude by 300. Now you can see from the visibility of my edge length the dimension of the brick when I select each face. We need to make copies of the brick, and in order to do that, we can add an array modifier. Leave the relative offset as 1 on the x direction and change the number of counts from 2 to 150. Apply the modifier in object mode and tab into edit mode to observe the arrayed object. Add another array modifier. This time, turn down the relative offset in the x direction to 0 and turn up the relative offset in the z direction to 1. Now, we want the brick to be offsetted a bit on the x-axis to model the mortar joints. Hence, we can input 0.002 as shown. Tab back into object mode and apply the array modifier, then tab into edit mode to observe the array. We want the ends of our brick wall to be close and not offsetted as shown, and need the length of the offset in order to ensure the length of the bricks at the ends of both the top and bottom array are the same. Now we can go on to do the same for the other side. Select the face of the offsetted array as shown and move by 102 in the x direction. To model the round castle brick wall, we need to curve the geometry of the brick wall, but in order to do that, we need a reference curve object whose geometry will be used as a modifier for the brick wall to mimic. Before further ado, let's rename this object brick wall, then we can go on to import a circle into the scene. For more details and to scale up the circle, increase the radius to 9000 and the vertices to 16 as shown. Then convert the circle into a curve. Select the brick wall and add a deform modifier. Select the newly added circle as the object and as shown in object mode. You can see that the brick wall is now perfectly curved around the circle. In order to adjust the radius of the brick wall and most notably the opening, we can select the circle and scale it as shown. The more we scale the circle, the wider the opening, the less we scale, the lesser the opening. However, what we want to do is to model a door opening, and we can have that to be around 1200 to 2000 mm wide. Now, we can go on to apply the modifier and tap into edit mode to observe the geometry of our brick wall and its opening. We want a simple crown on the fence, and in order to do that, we can model it off the existing brick wall by selecting the top face as shown. The left-hand extra face due to the odd number of faces in the object, but it's okay as both faces are situated at the center. Now we can go on to duplicate the selected faces and move along the positive z-axis as shown. Separate the duplicates from the brick wall objects as shown. With the object selected, tap into edit mode, select all and extrude along the z-axis by 150. Tap back into object mode and select the brick wall. Add an array modifier in order to model the height of the brick wall and match the brick wall to the crown. Turn down offset along z to 1 and x to 0 as shown, and increase the count to 10 to model a height of approximately 3000 mm. Step back into object mode and select the crown object as shown and move it down along the z-axis to sit right on top of the castle wall. Select the castle brick wall in object mode and apply the array modifier as shown. Tap into edit mode to observe the model. Now we need to model the wall over the door space, and in order to do that, we can model it off the existing geometry of the door. Select, duplicate and separate the edges around the door opening. Now, it's important to note that each brick is a separate mesh, hence we need to carefully match the vertices of the duplicates and painstakingly model the geometry of the wall above the door space by modeling the duplicates into a single mesh. We have successfully modeled the duplicates into a single mesh and can proceed to select all the edges of each sides in order to create a solid wall. We can do that by bridging the edge loops of selected edges as shown and repeat the same procedure for the edges in front as well. Select edges and use F to create a face on the top and the bottom of the mesh as shown. Use A to select all and move the wall above the door space into position as shown. Tap into object mode to observe the model. Select the crown of the castle brick wall and add a bevel modifier to it as shown.